Welcome back to the Lifestyle School podcast. Today, I want to talk about something very real and very common, and that is what to do when your mood is low. I have been here, we've all probably been here at some point where you wake up feeling just really heavy. Everything feels harder than it should. Getting out of bed, cooking a meal, answering a text message, getting outside to go for a walk. And it's not just, quote, in your head. Um, when your mood is low, there are very real chemical shifts happening in your body and brain that makes motivation feel almost impossible. But here's the hopeful part of this scenario. You don't have to wait for motivation to magically appear before you act. In fact, it's the opposite. Taking action is often what brings motivation back. So, today I'm going to share science backed strategies you can use to start shifting your mood when it feels stuck, whether for one day or maybe a week or more. We're going to talk about how sleep, light, movement, nutrition, connection, gratitude, and even putting our phone down can change our brain chemistry and our perspective. And remember, the goal isn't to do everything at once. We're not about perfection over here at Lifestyle School. We're about starting small, picking one thing, and building momentum. And that's how, we feel like a new person before we even realize it. So, before we get into it, guys, as always, a quick disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor, and this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your medical doctor before making any major health changes. And if you are dealing with something that feels like more than just a low mood, maybe you're dealing with depression or anxiety that's really impacting your life, I do want you to reach out to a qualified healthcare professional to help walk alongside you in this, because we do need to take our mental health very seriously. So, with that, guys, let's get into today's episode. So, the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because of my own journey, obviously. At the time of recording this, I'm about 21 weeks pregnant. And, my mood, my motivation in general over the last 4 years has had its very highs and lows. If I'm being completely honest, I am very human. And even just a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, I felt like I was slogging through life. I felt like my mood was really low. And so about 3 years ago, I went through a phase where I felt like my mood was very low for a very long time. And that was really difficult and concerning. And so I felt like I was getting into this cycle of having a low mood about a month ago. And honestly, I was like, okay, am I like spiraling? Is this a small thing? Do I need to be concerned about this? And I was determined. I said to myself that I need to figure out what I can do and quickly to turn this ship around, because I can't live like this. One, I can't show up for my kids, for my husband, our family, if I feel like this. And also it's like a horrible, place to be in and live in. So I was very motivated to essentially take an inventory of my life and what am I doing right now that's contributing to this. And a lot of the things we're going to talk about today are strategies that I actually used myself to kind of turn the ship around. Happy to say, mentally, I'm in a much better place in the last couple of weeks, but it took a little bit of time, right? We are not microwaves. Our physiology is not like a fast food drive through. We can't just snap our fingers and expect everything to turn around. But what I can tell you and what I hope you take away from today's podcast is that these times of low mood will come for various reasons. And what I want to leave you with today is knowing that even when those times come, you have agency and you can turn the ship around, right? Like you have the tools, they're free, they're inexpensive. And all of these small changes, if we just do them, they're gonna shift things. And, um, you know, there are some cases where we need additional help, right, from a practitioner, maybe a medical doctor. But for I think many of us, if we just do these things, we're going to be amazed by how much better we feel. So, with that, let's get into, you know, why low mood feels so heavy is the kind of the place I want to start. So, when your mood drops, it's often tied to changes in your brain chemistry and your physiology, as you probably imagined, right? Your neurotransmitters, which are chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, regulate your energy, your motivation, and sense of well being. And things like stress, poor sleep, and blood sugar crashes can throw these off of balance. And also, your hormones play a role in this as well. Things like cortisol rises when you're stressed or fatigued, while melatonin can be disrupted by things like poor sleep, like a poor sleep schedule, or too much late night screen time, which I think in our modern day and age can be a big problem, right? Even just last night, I didn't sleep very well, and I was thinking back to, like, what maybe caused this, and I think I was on both the blood sugar roller coaster as well as too much, screen time before bed. And then also things like inflammation are going to affect our mood. So, chronic inflammation, driven by things like processed food, our lack of sleep, or stress, can be directly linked to depression and low mood. So, if you have high levels of inflammation, your mood is going to be more volatile or more at risk, right? And then blood sugar, like I kind of mentioned here, big spikes and crashes leave you feeling tired, irritable, anxious, and generally for me, a huge thing is low energy. So if you feel like, you're dragging through the mud, you're not imagining it, right? There's real things that your body is also experiencing, and it's wired to respond quickly to these small corrective actions, though. So that's the good news, and that's why we focus on simple, doable things that work with your biology, not against it. Here at the Lifestyle School podcast and in my Lifestyle School course. So I want to talk about, the low mood happens, right? Maybe we get off track with our eating, with our sleep, our movement. Maybe life just happens. I don't know about you. I've been coaching people for a long time. I've been on my own journey for a long time. Life just has a habit of happening, right? And it can be a lot at times. And so let's talk about some practical science backed strategies to turn the ship around. And again, I'm pulling these from my own lived experience working with clients. And then what I really think like the data and the research support in regards to like turning the ship around for our mood. So the first thing that I always look at for myself and my clients is our sleep, right? Sleep is one of the most underrated antidepressants out there. Research shows that even one night of poor sleep reduces our serotonin activity in the brain and it increases our amygdala reactivity, the part of your brain that processes fear and negative emotions. So all the bad stuff seems worse and all the good stuff is less, right? So we're just like inverting what we want. And that's why everything feels harder when we're tired. And so doing something as simple as aiming to go to bed 30 minutes earlier tonight is going to start turning your ship around. I think I say this over and over ad nauseum. Hopefully, if you've been listening for a while, you get it. But consistent bedtimes, preferably before by like 10 o'clock, and a wake up time strengthen your circadian rhythm, which is going to help regulate your mood. And so, just saying, okay, I need to turn this ship around. I'm going to get to bed at this time, hell or high water, right? Nothing's going to keep me awake. I'm going to bed. I'm going to enlist help where I need it. I'm going to set boundaries where I need to. I'm going to prioritize this. And then I'm going to get out of bed, whether I feel like it or not, at this time in the morning. What that is going to do is it's going to help regulate your mood. And what it also is going to do is it's all going to help you regulate your emotions so much more. Everything is going to get easier if you are sleeping and if you're sleeping on a consistent schedule. Think of it as like your reset button for your brain. Excuse me. And your brain is likely absolutely begging for this. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I just had to take a big, big sip of water. So, long story short, guys, if you need to turn the ship around, you gotta start with your sleep. Very few times do I think starting with something else is going to be the answer. And then after you're committed to that, there's this other add-on piece that's connected to sleep that I think is so important. And I feel like just in the last couple of years, I've really started to see, I feel like it's been talked about more in like the health space, but I have just seen the difference in my own light, so much so that I bought a special light. But we have to get morning sunlight in our eyes right away. And before I say anything else, I'm going to say this. So, everyone, listen. If you're kind of distracted, bring it back to me. We have to stop looking at our phone first thing in the morning. Okay. If you wake up in bed and you grab your phone to turn off your alarm and then you start scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, you are asking for low mood for the rest of your day and to be on like the dopamine roller coaster of those like feel good feelings. I cannot tell you how different I feel personally if I don't look at my phone other than like in my morning routine as I get ready, I listen to like a Bible plan. But I'm not actually looking at my phone. I'm just listening as I like put my makeup on or whatever. If I don't look at my phone, like my email, my text messages, social media, any of that stuff until, I have my coffee about an hour later after getting ready, I feel like a different person throughout the day. I'm less likely to grab my phone and check it. And it makes so much of a difference. I just want to like challenge you if you're someone who wakes up and immediately starts looking at the notifications on your phone to try a week of not doing that. I would love to hear how different you feel, and I would bet it's going to be significant. So, I know that's not getting morning sun right away, but I think it's the first step to getting morning light into your eyes right away. Is if you're not, attacking your eyes with blue light from your phone and also your brain with all these dopamine, quick, fast dopamine triggers. But so rather than looking at our phone right away in the morning, we just turn off our alarm if we need to. Maybe we don't use our phone as an alarm, right? And maybe we get dressed, but within like 30 minutes of waking up, trying to get outside and get morning light in our eyes. It's one of the fastest ways to shift our biology. When natural light hits our eyeballs, it suppresses melatonin, which is what we want in the morning because we're trying to wake up, right? And it raises cortisol in a healthy way, not in a crazy wild way, in an energizing way, and it boosts our serotonin, which later converts into melatonin at night for better sleep. So if you're like, I want to go to bed earlier, but I just lay in bed awake, this point of getting uh, first morning sun in your eyes, even if it's cloudy, right away, first thing in the morning, is going to actually help trigger the rise of your melatonin later in the day so that you can fall asleep. It happens usually about 16 hours after you get that sunlight in your eyes. So if you want to wake up and feel, more alive, feel better, if you want to stimulate cortisol in a healthy way so that it can then come down in a faster, healthier way, and then have more of a melatonin surge at night for better sleep, you got to get first morning sun in your eyes right away. Like, make it a priority. I know, in some areas it doesn't get light in the winter until like 8:30 in the morning. You can get a 10,000 lux light. You just want to make sure it doesn't have any of the anything that would damage your eyes in it, and do that right away in the morning. I actually purchased a light. I'm trying to remember what let me look this up for you guys. I'm trying to remember the brand that I got. This is not sponsored whatsoever. If someone wanted to sponsor me, I'd be more than happy to be sponsored. But I paid full price for this, but I did a little bit of research. Okay, here it is, guys. It's the Circadian Optics Lumos 2.0 light. I just got it. both for myself and my husband, because so my husband works in a hospital. He gets to work usually before the sun is up. And so I wanted him to get some of this light in his eyes as well. Obviously, if you can get real natural light from the sun, it is the absolute best. But, sometimes that's just not possible. So let's use modern technology to our advantage in this case. And that's why I got a 10,000 lux light. I don't think you have to get that brand I got. There's like cheaper ones out there. Do a little bit of research. But yeah, it might be a huge difference maker for you. In fact, studies show that just 10 minutes of outdoor light exposure can reduce symptoms of seasonal depression and improve mood throughout the day, right? So before you reach for your phone in the morning, guys, we got to step outside, even if it's cloudy, and get that light in your eyes. And you might think I'm crazy, but when we're trying to turn this ship around of low mood and like find our motivation, hopefully you feel like you'll do anything. You're willing to try anything to turn the ship around. The next thing is I like to call it like touching grass or just getting outside and moving your body for a couple minutes. So go outside, set a timer, and walk in circles in front of your house for 5 minutes, even if you don't feel like it. Like tiny little movements, preferably outside, because I think everything in life feels better if you get outside, right? Maybe not if it's negative 40 degrees in winter in Minnesota. Maybe not if it's like 120 degrees in the summer. But I would say in general, getting outside, moving our body a little bit, it is truly medicine for our body. Exercise increases our blood flow. It helps release endorphins, and it changes the way our brain processes stress. But here's the key. It doesn't have to be for a long period of time, and it doesn't have to be intense. Obviously, those are great. But even a 5-minute walk can improve your mood by increasing dopamine and serotonin. And there was actually one study that showed a single bout of light physical activity improved energy and reduced feelings of sadness in just 20 minutes. So don't wait until you want to move. Just let the movement create the feeling, and hopefully that's going to lead to more movement over time. The next thing that I think could be a really great tool and I find to be super helpful is social connection. It's not for everyone the same way, but I am an extrovert. I love socializing. My husband always jokes that I got to get my 20,000 words out. I love meeting new people. I like finding out about people. But I'm also a stay-at-home mom. So I am home a lot with my children, homeschooling them, doing stuff with them to further their education. I'm now a soccer mom officially. We have practices and games, and I am starting to put on the miles on the van. But social connection is so important for us, even if we are an introvert. We are social creatures. We are meant to be in community, and it is really important for our mood. Just as like food and water are for our body. Social connection is important for our mood. Humans are wired for belonging, and when we isolate, stress hormones have a tendency to climb, and then with that, our mood typically plummets, right? And so I know this is a little countercultural here in 2025, but pick up your cell phone and dial someone's number and call them for 10 minutes on the phone. Like, this doesn't have to be overcomplicated of trying to schedule coffee or whatnot. Honestly, something that I have found to be so helpful for myself and others is I just pick up the phone and call people, and they're like, people are so happy typically to be called and just like, oh, like not for any reason, just to check in and see how you're doing. I love it when I get random phone calls from people who I love and care about, and they're just like, yeah, I'm just calling to see how you are. Like, they don't need anything. It's just about connection. It makes me feel so seen and loved and cared about. And hopefully when I call people, they feel that same way too. But a 10-minute phone call with a friend has been shown to reduce loneliness and lower cortisol. And even a quick conversation with a neighbor or a cashier can give your brain a dose of oxytocin, the bonding hormone that soothes things like anxiety and lifts your spirits. And so Um, I know a lot of times, like when our mood gets low, the last thing I want to do is talk to people because I feel just like ugh, I have nothing positive to talk about. But call a friend and ask them how they're doing, and just be curious about their life. And before you know it, maybe they'll ask you how you are, and you'll be able to maybe get some things off your chest, or maybe you'll just start to feel better because you're connecting with another human, sharing the burdens and the joys of life. And, it turns things around for you. So when in doubt, call it out. That didn't really work, but call a friend, ask them how they're doing. And, I guarantee you it's going to make you feel better, and you're probably going to make someone stay. And who doesn't want to do that? The next thing, that when I was going through the inventory of like, what can I do to turn my mood around, is we have to like analyze and look at like what are we actually eating. I know for myself, I am prone to get on that blood sugar roller coaster, guys, because if I eat any carbs, my blood sugar is like, hey, yo, let's go way up and then come way down. And, the crash leads to more cravings. And then up we go on that blood sugar roller coaster again. And the cycle continues. And so usually there is some connection, at least for me, and I do believe for most people, between our diet and our mood. And a really easy way to um, make a shift is to do protein first meals at every meal, right? What you eat directly impacts your brain chemistry. And protein provides amino acids that your body uses to make neurotransmitters. So it's really important, not only for your blood sugar, but also for your brain. And tryptophan builds serotonin, and triacinin builds dopamine, and both are critical for stable mood. So eating protein first meals, is going to slow down your absorption of glucose, which is going to prevent a blood sugar roller coaster that leaves us feeling, irritable, anxious, foggy, hungry. Doing things like eggs, Greek yogurt, fish, a steak, chicken, whatever, floats your boat that's protein first. It's going to be a small shift, but it does make a really big difference when it comes to our mood, just based on the chemicals it supports in our brain, and also getting us off that blood sugar roller coaster. And, protein is very satiating. So it's going to make us feel full. I know it's really easy when we don't feel our best, when our mood is low, to go grab comfort foods like chips or bread or sugar. But truly, like grabbing protein first at every meal, even if you feel like you need to eat between meals because you're just in a bad place, reaching for those protein snacks. And I'm not talking about like protein chips. I think that's like such a big scam, but a conversation for another day. But like, grab a steak instead, or some hard boiled eggs. Um, and that's truly going to make a big difference. It feels like such a small thing, but truly it's going to help turn that ship around. Number six, the sixth thing, and again, I'm listing a lot here, but hang with me. I'm trying to throw out a lot of ideas for you, and then we're going to talk about how to go about implementation, okay? But all of these things, I personally think, make a really big impact when it comes to turning the ship. I do think, though, you should start with sleep, but we'll get into the practicality of implementation. But we have to start practicing gratitude, especially when our mood is low, and we have to put it where we're going to see it so we're reminded, right? Gratitude rewires our brain, and studies show it activates the brain's reward pathways, increasing dopamine and serotonin activity. Writing down what you're thankful for and then putting that list somewhere you're going to see it is going to help you shift your focus from scarcity, from woe is me and frustration, towards joy and abundance, and like, oh, things maybe aren't as bad as I feel like they are, just based on the fact that my mood and my motivation are in the gutter, right? And the more specific you can be, the better, instead of just saying like, I'm thankful for my family. Right. I'm thankful that my daughter made me laugh today. Or you know, something like, I'm thankful that I woke up and I went outside right away and I got first morning sun. It could really be anything because your brain holds onto specifics more than generalities. And um, being really specific for things that you're thankful for, things that you're proud of yourself for doing. What it's going to do is it's going to shift your perspective. And so much of our health journey is really working on our perspective and shifting it in a way that's going to help direct us in the way that we want to go. It's so easy to live in a half or a glass half full mentality or a scarcity mindset, but honestly, it doesn't get us anywhere, right? So we have to practice gratitude. We have to be connected with the why we started this process in the first place. And then we have to write it down and we have to be really specific. And then go from there. Put it somewhere where you can see it so you can be reminded every day. Or maybe what you need to do is like say some things you're grateful for out loud in the mirror. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for this. And that's going to help so much on this process. And I know it seems like a really uncomfortable exercise talking to yourself in the mirror, but I can tell you from personal experience, it totally works. And then number 7, moving on, is intentionally moving our body. So a little different than our 5-minute walk. That's just like to get outside and move. This is kind of taking it a step further, a step beyond walking, trying any form of movement that feels accessible. So maybe that's stretching, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's dancing in your kitchen, maybe it's lifting weights, but finding a way to move your body like a little bit more aggressively is maybe the word I can come up with here. And the reason is movement increases BDNF, which is short for brain derived neurotrophic factor, which helps grow new brain cells, especially in the hippocampus. And that part of the brain regulates our mood and our memory. And so I don't know about you, but if you're ever feeling like, oh, low, low mood, turn on a really good song and like have a dance party by yourself in the kitchen. It like really works. It changes your mood and it can feel like a really good workout. Just be careful you don't like throw out your neck or your back. I would probably do something like that. Or even, just turning on, calming music and stretching, whatever feels like it's gonna move you in the right direction, start there. But we want to intentionally move our body, try to get our heart pumping a little bit because that is going to make us feel so good. And I can tell you from hundreds of workouts in experience, you never regret a workout that you did, even if it was only 15 minutes. Like you always feel better. Um, and so this doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to fit into a perfect little box, but the goal is to be intentional and to do it when you don't feel like it. And I know that's really, really hard, but finding ways to force yourself to do that. And then the last one I'm going to leave you with when it comes to kind of like the 8 things that I observed and I think really move the dial when it comes to changing our mood is getting off social media and putting our phone down. And I know I talked about this first thing in the morning, but I would say in general, I think social media can be a very double-edged sword. On one hand, it makes you feel connected to people in your life. But on the other hand, constant scrolling often leaves us feeling worse. We're comparing ourselves, we're doom scrolling, and it's an overstimulation that lowers our dopamine sensitivity and it increases our anxiety. It puts us on the dopamine roller coaster. Similarly to blood sugar, if you do something that spikes your dopamine really high, it's then going to crash. And I talked about this in the dopamine episode way back when. Feel free to go look that up. But we don't want to be putting ourselves on any sort of roller coaster, right? Because that's not going to leave us feeling well. And even taking a 1-hour break from your phone can lower your stress. Try setting boundaries, right? Around your phone usage. And, the first 30 minutes, the first hour of your day, put your phone in another room or turn it on silent. Really be intentional to protect your mental space the way that you would protect your physical home when it comes to social media and your phone usage, whether that's, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, whatever that looks like. And so I hope, thinking about these 8 things. Maybe if you're currently in a slump, where you feel like your mood is low, you're like, okay, I can kind of see some of these things are probably off, and maybe I need to start course correcting. But I wanted to leave you with a couple additional low hanging fruit that we're just going to go through really quickly. But things like hydration with electrolytes can really help with our mood. So even mild dehydration can cause fatigue, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and just doing a pinch of salt in your water for better absorption. A lot of times, if we're doing a good job drinking water, we're not getting enough electrolytes, and that causes some major issues. Slowing down throughout the day, taking a deep breath, doing maybe a little breath work. It's going to lower your cortisol. It's going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So, doing the 4-7-8 breathing technique where you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, and then you exhale for 8 seconds. It's a really powerful tool for just calming ourselves down. And that can be really helpful for our mood. Kind of said this, but we got to get outside. We got to step outside the front door, touch grass. And then I think this one is really good. And it kind of comes into also calling a friend, but look to serve someone else. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in ourselves, especially when we feel like our mood is low. It's, oh, woe is me, right? Helping another person shifts your focus away from your own struggles and is a great way to boost things like oxytocin and dopamine. So, hopefully this was like, a lot of tools to put in our tool belt when we feel like we get a low mood. But let's talk about like implementation now, because I know that was a lot that I just threw at you. So the most important piece is this when it comes to turning the ship, right? Don't try to do everything at once. If you're like, oh, my mood is low and Hope just gave me 8 things to try, I'm going to try them all at once. It's not going to work because your mood is low. Like you have no motivation to do anything. When your mood is low, it's unrealistic, I personally think, and overwhelming to expect yourself to overhaul your whole lifestyle and what you're doing, day over day. Instead, what I would like you to do if you find yourself, or I should say, when you find yourself in a point of having a low mood, just pick the lowest hanging fruit. I think for many of us it's just like going to bed a little bit earlier. Maybe it's the whole not looking at your phone right away in the morning. But the one thing you can do today, do it, and it can look like any of these 8 things truly. But if you do that one thing tomorrow, add another, and momentum is going to slowly build. And each small win shifts your chemistry, which shifts your mood, which gives you the energy to keep going. And I'm being so real with you guys. Before long, you're going to look back and realize you've climbed out of the rut, not with one giant leap, but with a series of small and intentional steps. And that's truly what we're all about here at Lifestyle School. Big drastic changes, they can get a lot of applause and feel really great sometimes in the moment. But for most of us, trying to make massive changes and overhauling in our life, if there isn't some like huge impetus of like, I have this crazy, scary diagnosis motivating me, is not sustainable. And even if you do it, I think of it as someone training for a bodybuilding competition. These individuals are extremely rigid, extremely strict with their diets, with their workouts. I mean, it's extremely restrictive. It really takes over your life. But then the show happens and they can't keep that up indefinitely. And so there's a rebound period, right? And we don't want to live like that. We don't want to live restricted and then rebounding back into old habits and, swing and yo-yo back and forth. That is not what we're about here. We're about figuring out what is the lowest hanging fruit. What can we start to implement and change? How can we make that feel easy within our lifestyle? And then how can we build on that? Because that's truly where long lasting change, health, I was gonna say health and wealth. That sounds really stupid. But like health, healing really happens in our body, and that's going to affect our health and it's going to affect our weight. And it's going to help us maintain things not just for a couple of months, but hopefully years to come, well into old age. So, with that, guys, if you feel like your mood is low today, um, don't wait for motivation to magically appear. Take action first. And I want you to know too, like, I see you, it's hard. Like, and let's just acknowledge that it's really hard to be in a space where you have low mood. But I want to encourage you and I want to exhort you to take action because action changes the chemistry of your brain. The chemistry changes your mood and momentum truly builds from there. And life is too short to live in a place of low mood or to wallow, right? So if you feel like, you're in a low mood spot, I would be so happy if you reached out to me and said, hey, I'm struggling. I'd love to talk to you about it because truly I have been there. And sometimes just being able to talk to someone about it, feeling seen can make such a big difference. And I want you to know that I see you and I'm with you in it. And, I have my peaks and valleys. I wish I didn't, right? I wish I was always on that mountaintop experience where I feel like my mood is great, my motivation is great, I'm killing it, I'm getting all the things done, I'm, making headway towards my goal, but that's just not real life, right? So with that, guys, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today on the Lifestyle School podcast. If this resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might need, this simple reminder of, some things that they can do to turn their mood around. And as always, if you haven't already, leave a comment on the podcast, subscribe. And if you try one of these strategies today, let me know how it goes. Reach out to me on Instagram, tag me in a post. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, guys, until next time, remember, start small, build momentum, and your future self will truly thank you. Okay, guys, we'll see you next time on the Lifestyle School podcast.